Welcome back to the Sports Business Virtual Summit, the actual last interview, I guess, but not necessarily a panel, a one-on-one discussion with Ryan Chen from Buzzer. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Tim. Really excited to be here and to be a part of this.
So give us a little background on yourself, because I want to jump into Buzzer. I know we only got about 30 minutes or so. So give us a little background on yourself and how you even came about Buzzer.
Yeah, so I'd say I got really lucky, honestly. So I had the opportunity to meet Bohan, who's our founder and CEO, last February. It was, I think, a week before the lockdown. And so at the time we got connected through a mutual friend who knew him from his Twitter days, and met at his WeWork. At the time he had a demo video and a PowerPoint deck, but that was effectively it. You could, you Google Buzzer, nothing comes up. There's no buzzer.com at that point in time. But he sort of showed me and told me the concept he had in mind. And I remember thinking at the time, this is not going to be easy, but if anyone's going to do this, he's onto something and I want to be a part of it. And so had the sort of stayed in touch with Bo in the coming months, ended up raising his seed round, and then had the opportunity to join the team last June as part of the first hires on the biz dev and partnerships team.
Awesome. And for those who don't know, what is Buzzer?
Yeah, so Buzzer is effectively a mobile first notification driven live sports platform. And so what we're effectively seeking to do is to be the last mile technology that connects sports fans to the lightning in a bottle moments in live sports that matter most to them. And so we do that through three main product premises. The first being hyper-personalized notifications. So sending you, Tim, notifications that are relevant to you. That might be the Lakers and Giannis and Tiger Woods. It could be whoever your local team is, but creating a customized experience for you. The second is our focus on short form live content and live look-ins, and using microtransactions as the process to access that. And so effectively by that, lowering the barriers to entry. And so telling you exactly when to watch and what you're watching, and you're, as a result, paying for the content that is relevant to you.
Okay.
And then the third piece is what we're calling a unified authentication platform, where existing subscribers to, whether it's NBA League Pass, NHL.tv, are able to authenticate in our platform and watch that content for free because they're already paying for that existing subscription. So those are the three main elements. I'd say one thing to note is the Buzzer experience will be different for everyone, and because of that personalization piece. And so we're going to show you, Buzzer moments that are relevant to you and based on your specific interests and preferences, which are obviously going to be different from person to person.
That's interesting. And so walk me through. I'm a fan of, let's say I'm from Cleveland Browns, let's say, and then I also like Luka on the Mavs. So I subscribe, if you will, or I just say, hey, I'm interested in these teams and athletes, and then you're going to feed me everything that I want, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you would download the app totally free. You get in and you select, your favorite players and teams. So that might be Cleveland Browns, or maybe it's Baker Mayfield. And then you also plug in Luka Doncic and anyone else. And then we will then, at that point, you can kind of browse the app or you can close the app, but we'll then send you notifications whenever something interesting is happening. And so we'll tell you, hey, Luka Doncic is going for a triple double. Now's the time to, jump into the fourth quarter and watch.
Okay.
Or Browns are driving, 7-point game. Now's your time to tune in.
Interesting. Okay. And then, wow. I could see that there's so many different ways to take that. So if I'm, it's always completely free, or it's just free to kind of get started?
Yeah, sorry. So free to get started. So free to download. The entry point though, there will be a micro payment, right? And so once you swipe, basically you'll get maybe there's a 10-second free preview for a lot of our content. And then upon that, you'll have sort of the seamless access. We've got integrations with Apple Pay where you can use Face ID, and you'll pay, a micro payment. So 99 cents, $1.99 to access sort of that short form piece of content.
Gotcha. And so like, hey, Browns are driving, it's the second quarter. Do you want access to it? So then I pay for that, or can I set up a subscription where I just want all like the goods type of thing?
Yeah, our current focus is on the micropayments model, and so we don't have a subscription offering currently, and a lot of that has to do with how we see the younger generation consuming content. And so there's obviously a plethora of subscription services out there, but you look at something like Fortnite, right, where kids are spending a dollar here, a dollar there on digital goods, and
But
sort of, but it's
NFL
exactly what they want.
skins even, yeah.
Yep, NFL skins, exactly. And I think you've even seen Facebook recently came out with their own pay-per-view model for high school sports, and
Yep.
so
Yep.
tapping into that model, knowing that there is already an abundance of subscription offerings out there, and narrowing it to users being able to pay for the content that they're actually watching.
Gotcha. That's interesting. Okay. And so who is like the demo, the average demo or the target demo for this type of product?
Yeah. Our target demo is what we've termed the next gen fan, and so that effectively is Gen Z and millennials. And these are fans who, I don't know about you. So growing up, right, me and my father, brothers, we'd sit on the couch for 3 hours, right, watch the Yankees game all day. We'd watch Red Zone the entire day, and that is still how a lot of people consume content, as evidenced by there's still millions of people with cable packages watching full games, but this generation is not wired that way, right? They're looking at highlights on Instagram and Twitter, and other kind of shorter form pieces of content. And so our approach and our goal is to say, how can we bring that fan who still loves live sports but doesn't want to watch a full game? How can we bring them back into the live window? Because in our mind, the live window is still the most valuable and the most important part of a sports game. But how do we kind of lower the barriers to entry so that it's more accessible for this generation?
That's interesting. I like the model. Obviously, I should have brought this up. I met Bo in his Twitter days as well years ago, and that's how I kind of just been following. I was like, oh, okay, so here's what he's up to, and that's why we had gotten connected in the first place. But so walk me through of like, so you started in June of last year. What did we do for the last 12 months with essentially no sports for a good amount of time, right? Are you just biz deving? Are you working on product? What happened in the last 12 months?
Yeah, it's funny. So as a team last summer, we were talking, it was in some ways it was ironic, right? To be building a live sports platform from the ground up at a time when there was no live sports on.
None, yeah.
And so that was always a funny sort of conversation starter. But I think in hindsight, it actually worked out really well for us, because it allowed us to really focus from on the product side, to focus on building out the best product and not having to worry about, let's integrate 5 sports off the bat, right? And trying to kind of just make the app accessible as early as possible. Instead, kind of refining the product. We did a lot of user research and surveys to get feedback from customers and fans, and to really understand, what is the experience that these fans are looking for, and how can we build towards that. And so on the product side, we spent the last 12 months continuing to, building that out. And even now we're still refining that. We are in early access products, so anyone can download the Buzzer app from the App Store. But there's a wait list to get in. And the reason for that is to, ensure that as we continue to, refine the experience, get feedback, once we open it up for general consumption, that, it is a really elite product out there. And then on the biz dev side, yeah, we've, as you can imagine, as at this time last year, a lot of sports were focused on return to play rather than doing a partnership again, adding partnerships at a time when they weren't sure when they could even add, even offer us or strike these deals. But we've seen definitely over the last, I'd say kind of 6 and 9 months, even, that these conversations have really picked up. I know as you've seen, like, a lot of sports have sort of figured out some way to come back to play, and so are now. And in some ways, the pandemic has accelerated a lot of trends that had started in terms of cord cutting, things of that nature, that only, I think, were exacerbated by the shutdown. And so as people look to cut costs, and so we've been super fortunate. We announced our first 2 partnerships back in April, with the PGA Tour, and then Disney and the NHL. And then most recently, last month, we announced our partnership with the NBA to distribute League Pass SKUs on our platform. And so have been really focused on those initial partnerships, and now forward really trying to keep that momentum going and continuing to build out the platform and content for our users.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to be bumped up to the top of that wait list. So push push me over the edge in there so I can become a beta user. But and secondly is who are you who are these partnerships with, right? You say the NFL, or excuse me, NBA, PGA, but you also have these broadcasting rights, right, with these different people. How does that all work out with you guys?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the way we think about it is we honestly want to partner with everyone, and so our goal is to be additive to the ecosystem and get more people to watch live sports. And doesn't matter, who the partner is. It could be the NBA or PGA, but we'd also love to partner with ESPN or CBS, Paramount Plus, MVPDs, RSNs. Our goal really is to just drive greater awareness, viewership, revenue for the entire ecosystem. And so on a practical basis, these rights, it's a very complex ecosystem. And so rights, sometimes they sit with the league, sometimes they sit with the broadcasters, sometimes it's the RSNs. Really just depends on any given sport and deal. But our goal, our hope is that we can be a partner to everyone and really be additive to anyone throughout the sports media ecosystem.
Gotcha. Do you see a world where potentially this is the way to broadcast and the only way to broadcast? So, for example, we had on earlier a gentleman who's helping with the PR and marketing of the Premier League or Premier Sevens rugby. Right, it's a brand new league. They don't have or they are about to announce a broadcast partner, but let's just say they don't have a broadcast partner like a traditional ESPN or Fox or CBS. And they just say, we're going to provide a really cool live event. And then the only way to distribute that kind of accessible, scalable content is through you guys. You ever see a world where that lives?
So this might be a surprising take, but I would say no. And so I would say our goal again is to drive kind of the top of the funnel, right? Raise awareness for live sports and across all sports, whether it's football, baseball, rugby. But our hope is that this will convert fans to watch the entire game at some point, right? And so if you want to watch 5 minutes of rugby on your phone, like, we'd love to be the home for that. But if you want to watch a 3-hour rugby match or a football game or an MLB game, you probably don't want to do that on your phone, honestly. And so you should do that on your big screen TV, and that would not be through Buzzer. That would be through whether it's CBS or your YouTube TV subscription. But we see that long form content continuing to live on larger screens with a lot of the existing players, but we want to be the home to that shorter form pieces that sort of
Sure.
get you into the top of the funnel and get you excited about a given sport.
Sure. That's interesting. In a similar kind of world, they have all these, like you talked about, pay-per-view for even like Facebook or whatnot, or even like last week, I guess, last week or 2 weeks, whatever it was, the Logan Paul and Mayweather fight, right?
Yeah.
So do you ever see something where obviously you're not going to do a micro thing for the cost for the main event, but maybe something like on the undercard that's on the pay-per-view or one of the ones leading up to that? Could that be potentially be a fit or no?
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely having conversations with a number of properties across the combat sports space. Again, as you mentioned, we would love to work up to that main event, right? That Mayweather Paul event. But I think you're right in terms of a lot of the undercards. I think it could be interesting in terms of, and a lot of these discussions are still underway, but whether it's maybe it's the entire fight, or maybe it's, hey, it's the 6th round, it's still going, watch till the end, right? And kind of, because at a certain point, especially within combat, I'd say you're sort of watching at the beginning, or and you've paid that initial PPV subscription or price, or you're kind of tuned out because at a certain point you say, oh, it's not worth it anymore, right? I missed 50% or 75% of what's happening. I don't want to pay $50 anymore. But if we can then say, hey, there's still 25% left and it's still really interesting, let's lower that barrier to entry. I think we definitely see a world where we can hopefully be a beneficial solution to both fans and rights holders.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. What's the strategy, the content strategy, partnership strategy? Obviously, like you mentioned earlier, you don't want to flood the gates until you have a product that you feel comfortable with that can scale, right? Are you strategically picking like the PGA based on viewership? Are you strategically picking these different ones, and who are you selecting as far as leagues and teams? And then are we approaching this as from a global standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say strategic, bigger picture. I think our goal is to democratize access to live sports, and that's all live sports. And so, in the long term, we envision ourselves being a platform where you can watch, anything, whether it's golf, baseball, basketball, rugby, table tennis, sort of any sport you can imagine. At the same time, I guess from a practical standpoint, we have, limitations on resources, right? And so we can only integrate so many partners onto the platform at any given time. We can only, negotiate deals with so many partners at any given time. And so we've been super happy with our early partnerships in terms of each of the PGA, the NHL, and the NBA games we've been able to deliver. I think naturally we've sort of at least off the bat steered towards some of these larger partnerships as we establish credibility, and also sort of kind of find the the leagues where there is there's demand from our fan base, right? And this is built on a lot of the early surveys and user research we did last summer. And so we've kind of started there, but I think naturally you'll see us kind of hopefully try to really expand and grow in a number of verticals. I would say one area where we're focused on today, and I think we see a big opportunity is women's sports. And so we're hoping to, be able to announce, one, if not a few partnerships in that space in the coming months. I think that in particular is an area that has been, I think there are stats out there that, 95% of TV coverage goes to men's sports, but at the same time, participation rates in sports are close to 50-50. I think 50% of sports fans are female. And so we hope to be a part of that solution where we can, create better access and opportunity for those leagues.
Yeah, no, we had on earlier today was Athletes Unlimited. Talk about, I mean, this great combo. If you want to go back and once we have it up on our platform, you can take a look at that. But to your point too, is like we had World Table Tennis on your way, International Fitness Federation, all of those that I think could potentially be collabs. If you're not talking to them, happy to make that introduction for you guys. But so is there IP within the platform that's the one setting you, hey, the Cleveland Browns are driving in the last 2 minutes, or where are you getting the data and kind of turning that into like the consumer facing what's now happening?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so we're working. So at the base level, we're working with our partners to sort of ingest those base level data feeds in terms of what quarter is it, what team is, who has possession, who's the quarterback, all that sort of stuff. But then I think the sauce, on our side, the secret sauce is we have a data science team, which is really built, doing a lot of data modeling to figure out when are those high leverage moments that are going to be interesting to people. And so I think this is something that will continue to scale over time, but figuring out, what are, in a basketball game, what are the biggest turning points? When is there momentum? Yeah. Things like that. And so I think there's a lot of really exciting stuff we can do there. And then the other piece of that is this personalization piece. And so I think we see a world where there are, basically player-based SKUs, right? So if you love, maybe you like the Yankees, but you love Aaron Judge, you could then pay to just watch Aaron Judge's 4 at-bats, right? It's the Aaron Judge SKU. Or there's, again, maybe even in the more near term, it's Luka Doncic. We'll send you notifications when he specifically is going for, a triple double or about to set a record. Yeah. Really leveraging sort of our data science team. And so the algorithms they're building to kind of deliver the notifications that we think are going to be, actually interesting to people.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Do you see any other technologies out there from a broadcasting standpoint, or just a pure product that you could integrate or that could help elevate what Buzzer's doing?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say one one part of, I think, sports, at least for me, that I view as really important is the social aspect, right? And so naturally, as you migrate from, a large screen television, either whether that's your family room or at a bar, to your mobile device where we're focused, it can be easy to lose that element. And so we actually, I know one of Bo's favorite videos to show is start with why, which is a TED talk about how I think there's, conceptually there are sort of three circles, right? The outermost most circle is the what, and so most companies know what they do. The middle circle is the how, so some companies know how they do what they do, and then the middle kind of deepest layer is, why. Why do you do what you do? And for us, we've been very thoughtful of that, and for us, I think it's community. And so I think to the extent that we can, longer term, we're looking at figuring out what are the social integrations we can build to make it a more social, community driven platform. I think that will be a very high priority for us. We're looking at things like, live reactions, live audio chat, watch parties with a friend, gamification, a number of things to just make it a interactive experience. And so you're not losing that social element that I think is so critical to the sports viewing experience.
Yeah, I love that chat with friends, the view with friends. I think that are you guys envisioning like split the pie with your friend type of thing? Like, hey, you want to go 50-50 on this last half of the Browns game type of thing?
I think we'd love to get to a point where we can do that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will, once that's available, I will, I'll shoot you a text to make sure we go in on that together.
Yes, for sure. Oh man, we're getting close. All right, let me go through a couple more of these things I want to find out about Buzzer. So the ability to deliver you kind of like in the moment, hot kind of in-game events, right? And now you're talking about like adding in components of like socialness. Do you see this as being a daily fantasy kind of play as well, where do you want a DraftKings or FanDuel integration? Do you see that type of thing as well on top of it?
Yeah, it's a super interesting question. Definitely one we've been thinking through a lot internally. I'd say it's still early days, and I don't see us ever becoming I don't ever see us becoming a sports betting platform. And the fact that you're not going to be, placing bet slips, on Buzzer, and we're not going to be, sort of the bookie on the other side of that, given all the, the ramifications of that industry. I would say at the same time, there are interesting applications and integrations because betting creates, has natural ties to these, moments that we've talked about, right? And so whereas, a 95 to 94 game, 2 minutes left in the fourth, that's interesting to everyone. Maybe it's a 45 to 44 game at the end of the second quarter, but then you have the Mavs winning the first half, and then all of a sudden that is now an interesting moment to you that you might not otherwise have cared about. And so to the extent that we can figure out the right way to do that, I think there's a lot of interesting tie-ins.
Yeah, I could see the DraftKings and FanDuels of the world wanting that and paying for that, right? Because those are the obviously they spend a lot of money leading up to the Super Bowl, but as the last couple of years, the in-game play as like 5G is becoming more accessible to people and becoming better and better, and the in-game play is where you see a lot of dollars and them trying to get in any which way that they can. So I could see that integration happening too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that would be a really interesting, two-way street in that. If you're betting, you're probably more interested in watching the live sports, and likewise, if you're already watching live, if something pops up that says, hey, you should, place a wager on the last, click here to, think about either, doing a game or placing a wager, that there's some probably really interesting tie-ins on both sides of that.
Yeah. We've only got a couple more minutes, but where do you see, or what do you view this year as being a success, right? So now you've come into a year, now we're starting to open up most sports, at least, that have fans in the stadiums now. And you got the Olympics. I don't know if you're going to do anything with the Olympics. It's kind of like a beta type thing, but what would you view this year as a success on your end?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think on the one hand, I feel good in that we've sort of announced some of our initial partnerships, and so we think we have a really good foundation of what we want to build at Buzzer. I think going forward, 6 months left in the year, we'd love to keep the momentum going and continue to, find other rights holders that we can work with to help them reach this next generation of fans, while also, providing, that easier access for fans to consume that content. And so I think there's a little bit of a flywheel there where, better content you have, the more fans, and the more fans, the easier it is to acquire content. And so to the extent that we can continue to grow that offering, I think that's going to be really important for us. And then I think there will be a moment, I think hopefully later this year, where we will be fully launched to the public, and at that point in time, that we'll be in a place where we feel we already feel good, but that where we feel extremely excited and where we are, and being able to offer that to the rest of the country, I think will be a really exciting time for us, and something we're all really looking forward to internally.
Awesome. I am too. I'm excited to see this new venture kind of grow, blossom, partner, and use it myself. So I appreciate the time today. I definitely want to have you back on to do something. So we'll figure that out, maybe some announcements, and we'll do some product showing and get the community behind it too.
That sounds great. Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me, Tim. Really enjoyed doing this, and look forward to chatting again soon.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Ryan.